Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Thank you, everybody. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm speaking from Gadigal land. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land, and acknowledge the ancestors and anybody with us, any Aboriginal people with us here today. Okay, so I'm going to speak about a project that I'm currently involved in, which involves all of these people, and as I'll explain, possibly more people as we go along. So the project is called Access All Areas, and today I'm going to talk about research as collective resistance to the limits on medical abortion in New South Wales. Now, one part of so the talk is on the limits to accessing medication abortion in New South Wales, and on our multidisciplinary, multi-pronged activist research approach to addressing these limits. One of the things that we started doing is developing producing a podcast. And so our social work honours students have been out and about asking Vox Pop questions towards this podcast. So I'm just going to ask you for a minute to have a look at these questions and answer them in your head. These are the questions that are being asked. Do you think abortion is freely available in Australia today? If you or someone you know had to access an abortion tomorrow, how would you go about it? Have you heard of medical abortion or abortion pills? And what do you know about them? So they're the Vox Pop questions, and I'm going to kind of answer them backwards. So I'm going to start with question 3, move up to question 2, and finish with question 1. So what's happened? So medication abortion or abortion pills, put simply, is an alternative to surgical abortion that takes place in the very early weeks of pregnancy, up to 9 weeks in Australia. It involves taking medications, mifepristone, previously known as RU486, and misoprostol. The World Health Organization recommends medication abortion as a first-line, safe, economical, and convenient approach to abortion care. It's been used throughout the world since 1988, and in many countries, Sweden, for example, medical abortion accounts for more than 95% of first trimester abortions. However, in Australia, medication abortion is highly regulated, commercially controlled, very expensive, little known about, it's stigmatized, and it's sparsely provided. So just to give you a demonstration of Australia as an outlier in relation to medication abortion or abortion pills, abortion pills were first approved for use internationally in China and France in 1988. It's 2024. In the United Kingdom, 1991, Sweden, 1992, and New Zealand in 2001, and 70 other countries since then. So let's look at the Australian story. In the early 1990s, abortion pills, widely known then as RU486, was available in Australia through the World Health Organization's international trials of the drug. But in 1996, during the Howard years, a de facto ban was placed on the use and importation of the abortion drug. It's known as the Haradine Amendment to the Therapeutics Goods Act, where an independent senator, Brian Haradine, did a trade-off over the partial sale of Telstra. So agreed to the partial sale of Telstra in exchange for putting a ban on abortion pills importation and use. So remember that every time you make your phone call. 10 years later, due to activism of crossbench, the veto power in 2006, the amendment was removed, and the amendment involved granting federal health minister veto power, making it then lawful to use the abortion pills. But unfortunately, no pharmaceutical company, because of the controversy, would manufacture or market it here. So it wasn't until 2012, so we're really moving along here, that the TGA approved a license to a particular company, MS Health, to import and distribute the drug to Australia. And the following year, it was listed on the Pharmaceutical Benefits Scheme. So since 2013, so this is now 10 years ago, GPs were permitted to prescribe abortion pills provided they undertook training and registered. Pharmacists were also permitted to dispense, provided they also were formally registered. And in 2019, only 1 in 10 GPs were registered to prescribe, and very few pharmacists registered to dispense. And from talking to people in the Pharmacists Guild, they say it's not necessarily because they were conscientious objectors. It was just too much hassle. They just didn't want to bother going there. So very recently, in August 2023, the TGA lifted the requirements for certification. So now any GP or nurse practitioner can prescribe and all pharmacies can dispense. However, compared to other countries, there's still a very high level of regulation and commercial control over abortion pills. So for example, in Australia, it's very, very medicalised. You have to have an ultrasound, you have to have blood tests, you have to book in for checkups. Whereas in some other countries, you can just go to your chemist, you can go to your pharmacy, get a prescription and do it yourself, have a self-managed abortion. Not here. Keep going. Okay. So I want to move to that section 2 and have a look at whether or not how you would go about accessing a medication abortion in Australia and what some of the limits on access are. So the first limit on access relates to geography. Some 30% of Australian women live in an area with not even one GP provider, and even more live in an area of Australia where there's neither a GP provider or a pharmacist dispenser of abortion pills. So they have to go to abortion clinics to get medication abortion. And these are predominantly located, as you know, in metropolitan areas. There's only one abortion clinic located in a regional area in New South Wales. There are limited access to public hospital abortion care. Only 2 public hospitals in New South Wales provide abortion care. John Hunter in Newcastle and Wagga Wagga. So you would need medication abortion care, like any abortion care, surgical or medical. It's outrageous. Public money. I know. I kept checking that. They can't be true. They can't be true. So it's for getting a surgical abortion or for getting assistance following a medication abortion. So as some examples we were given included things like a woman, say, for example, in regional New South Wales, having a medical abortion, needing to go to the hospital to receive care, Orange Hospital, and then saying we don't provide abortions, even though it was for care post having the abortion. And obviously, accessing medication abortion before 9 weeks makes timely access really, really, really imperative. So that's just a little figure that shows abortion clinics in New South Wales and where they're located. Okay, limits on abortion. Limits on access to medication abortion are also the costs. So this is from yesterday, having a look at one of the big providers, MSI Australia. How much does medication abortion cost? If you have a healthcare card, so if you are a pensioner or beneficiary, your starting price is $580. If you have a Medicare card, your starting price is $620. And without a Medicare card, your starting price is $1,280. And actually, surgical abortion is more expensive. So this is the cheap option, people. People eligible for Medicare, obviously, including refugees, asylum seekers, and international students, face the greatest out-of-pocket costs for accessing abortion. Migrant and refugee women are the highest group requesting financial support for abortion care, bursaries, donations, etc. And part of our group are organisations like Mums for Refugees, who say a lot of their work is raising money to assist women to pay for abortions. And interestingly, they're just shocked at how difficult it is to get medical abortion, because in their own countries, these were easily accessed. I mean, for us, we really need to think about international students. If international students are not covered by Medicare, they are covered by health insurance, but the overseas student health cover, the insurance, does not cover pregnancy or abortion care if they fall pregnant within the first 12 months of migration. So there's no private health insurance to cover the costs. So a little bit more on cost. The cost of the actual drug, and I suppose this relates to the over-medicalisation of medication abortion, is only $42. While we don't have information about the cost price in Australia, we know that the two drugs are very, very cheap to produce, with the main drug costing approximately $2 to produce and the other one even cheaper. I hope you're noting me avoiding pronouncing the names of these drugs. Okay, so what are our activist research responses? I've given you the list of people so far involved, and that might give you some indication of the kinds of things that we're attempting to do about this situation and to deal with these particular issues. I really want to acknowledge the work of Anna Noonan from the School of Rural Health here at the University of Sydney. This is her special area, and I've learned just about everything I know from her. But she's brought in Dr. Madeleine Belfrage, who's an abortion activist working in Mexico, who's come back to Australia, and she's been deeply involved in working on self-managed abortion, on working with activist organizations in Mexico who are doing a great deal to help out people living in the United States, for example. 2 minutes. And then you can see some of the other people and the other kinds of disciplines that they're coming from. And this has really helped us shape the kind of activist research responses that we're developing. So the first one that we've been funded for, and it's just about, really well on its way, is just finding all of the services, all of the places, all of the GPs, all of the pharmacists that will dispense and are dispensing, and displaying them on a data visualization tool that anybody and everybody can access, and mapping what we call abortion deserts in New South Wales. And this is a strategy that we borrowed from activist researchers in the United States who are doing exactly the same thing in the United States to try and demonstrate what's going on. The second strategy is to put together with our audio production friends from media and communications and our two brilliant social work honours students, podcast series, just following Georgie's lead of really operating in the public conversations about these issues. Alongside that, we're putting together a social media campaign to raise the awareness of these issues beyond what I'm doing here now. And our friends from UTS, Shireen Fard in Visual Communication, has organised their social media visual communication students to take this on as a project for next semester, plus a whole range of other weird and wonderful and beautiful policy, different other interventions. We have our students working on policy interventions. There's a reform piece going to New South Wales Parliament in September. Our friends in in the biochemistry and chemistry departments say that they can produce the pills for much cheaper. They're out of patent. They run a project called Breaking Good as opposed to Breaking Bad. So that might be one way that we could get a social enterprise operating, particularly focused on our international students, to just provide the pills ourselves. We have made friends with colleagues in Canada who are working on abortion access in prisons. So something I hadn't even thought about. You lose your Medicare card and your access to PBS when you're in prison. So abortion access in prisons is the next project off the rank. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sue. Please stay there because it's now an opportunity for yourselves to ask any questions or raise any comments. Ruth.
So you're saying that no abortion clinics provide free medical, yeah, not drug related, but normal surgical abortions?
So you will need to, so the question, sorry, just might need to use this just for.
Oh, well, actually, when you say bulk billing, the Medicare rebate is only between, is the maximum is $90.
So if someone's between a certain, you know how the age group under bulk billing at the moment has been adjusted.
So under 18, you might be right. If you're under 18, you might be able to bulk bill, but I haven't read anything about it. However, not very long ago, just a couple of months ago, the ACT government announced and has put in place free abortions, both medical and surgical abortions. So it's a kind of trial, and they kind of caught up with this MS Health company. But if you're an ACT resident, regardless of whether you have a Medicare card or not, you can get a free abortion, which is something obviously we're pushing for here as well. I always think that's funny because when I was growing up in Canberra, we had to come to Sydney because it was illegal there.
Really amazing project.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes.
Sorry, just
Eli.
want to say, for anyone living in Canberra, is that including, in the ACT, is that including international students as well, or?
Yes, but so it is, you don't have to have a Medicare card, which I think is really, fantastic. It's a real loosening up of anybody who lives in the ACT. However, it is a residency requirement. Now, as a social policy person, I think it's very interesting that you can have such different rights between jurisdictions. So you can, but you have to prove residency. You have to, show that you actually live in Canberra. You're a Canberra citizen to get that.
Any other comments, questions? All right, well, please. Oh, I have a question.
Oh, do you?
Yes, if that's okay. That notion of access and equity, why is that an important fundamental right for us to be continuously focusing on as part of that shared approach to such policy and responses to, sorry, for the camera, responses to such healthcare needs? Like, what is it that drives the overarching goal of the project alongside the policy frameworks?
Okay. I mean, one of the things that we've started every grant application, every bid for money is abortion is legal in Australia. So therefore it's a health right. It's a right to health. And sometimes we imagine when think, you know, when you read the news and it says abortion is legal in every state now, you think everything's fine. But actually, when you dig deep, it's not. I mean, the access is limited. There's major restrictions and major exclusions. So it's a matter of maintaining the scrutiny of these things that we think are universal and universally available, but they're actually not.
Awesome. Please join me in thanking Professor Susan Goodwin. Thank you so much, Sue.